Party started. Are you all
Let's
ready
go.
to rock and roll?
Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
All right, let's roll. Welcome to the smartest people in the room. We are so glad you are here with us, and just by showing up, you are already demonstrating your very own smarts. Today, we are thrilled to present two rock stars from the music industry who also happen to be two of the very nicest guys you'll ever meet. More on that in a moment. Before we get started, please let me take care of some business. First, to the audience, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat window. The reason we do these webinars is twofold. First, we want to showcase really smart people and the amazing work they do day to day in the music industry. But the second reason is a bit more nuanced. Many of you know that I am a music industry headhunter. I place music executives in roles throughout the business. So by definition and function, I help people connect with companies. In this series, my goal is to help you make more connections, and I invite you to take full advantage of that opportunity. Specifically, I invite you to engage with the speakers and the other attendees in the chat of the Zoom. Please introduce yourselves, share your LinkedIn profile, say hello to your friends, and make some new ones. And please ask questions of our speakers. We will try to address as many of those as possible during the session. Also, please make sure that your chat is set to address speakers and attendees. I want to thank our sponsors for without their support, we couldn't keep this free. I want to thank First Horizon Bank, Bufkin Baker, Four Roses Bourbon, the Tennessee Entertainment Commission, Lightning 100, Tennessee Brew Works, Moo TV, Jive Printing, Project Music, and Cushmaster's brand of CBD products. So let's get down to business. In today's host seat, we welcome Jeff Timmons. Jeff is the founding member of the internationally acclaimed multi-platinum Grammy-nominated selling group 98 Degrees, which has sold over 15 million albums with 4 top 5 radio singles. 98 Degrees albums have reached gold or platinum status in more than 60 countries around the world. After his success with 98 Degrees, Jeff single-handedly wrote and produced his first solo album, which was released as a joint venture with Rising Phoenix and SLG Music. The album's first single produced a top 20 hit on both Billboard and R&R charts. Jeff has performed at the White House twice, has made appearances on the Grammys, The Tonight Show, the American Music Awards, the Teen's Choice Awards, MTV Total Request Live, Dick Clark's Rockin' New Year's Eve, and many more. In 2013, he took his project Men of the Strip on a 42-city sold-out club tour, which caught the attention of E! Network, who subsequently filmed a docu-movie chronicling the cast. The show aired in May of 2014 for a debut audience of nearly 500,000 viewers and continues to air around the world with overall viewership of nearly 90 million worldwide. Recently, Jeff executive produced a TV series called Droned for Discovery Science. He has several TV, film, and other music projects in development for 21 and beyond, and 98 Degrees will tour over 40 U.S. cities. Welcome, Jeff. So glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure and honor. Great to be here. Thanks. Thank you. Excited about this.
Awesome. And joining Jeff as today's featured guest is Tom Callahan. Tom is a 35-year music industry veteran who's been at the forefront of most every music business change and in several instances was the catalyst. He began his career as a touring musician before transitioning to executive record promotion positions at indie label powerhouses Enigma Records, IRS Records, and Virgin Records in the late 80s and early 90s, rising to VP of adult formats at the age of 29. His independent spirit beckoned, and upon leaving the corporate world, started his indie promotion company, building it into one of the largest in the U.S., working with virtually every major label artist, including Shania Twain, Lenny Kravitz, Paula Abdul, Hall & Oates, and countless others, while simultaneously co-founding and operating Coyote Records and Vellum Entertainment. As an independent record promoter, Tom was nominated for Promoter of the Year in 1998 and 99, by then leading trade R&R magazine, with his label Vellum Entertainment nominated for Gold AC Record of the Year in 2000 on the success of his artist Susie K. As manager, Tom handled many artists over his long career, including Phoebe Snow, Jeff Timmons of 98 Degrees, Kaylee Grow of Lava Republic Records, Justin Hopkins, Olivia Rocks, Arnold McCuller, Susie Kay, and many others. Most recently, Tom was instrumental in the rapid rise and success of Songtradr, the largest B2B music licensing marketplace in the world. With his new company called Indie Advance, Tom is positioned to empower the indie artist and global distribution and robust artist services while surrounding himself with world-class executive team. Tom is also All America's Vice Chairman and International Secretary of Full Contact Kyokushin Kan Karate in Japan, holding the rank of 5th Dan and title Renshi Shihan. We're going to learn what that means in a little bit, folks. Please welcome these two rock stars to the smartest people in the room. Please take it away, Jeff.
Thank you so much for the glowing introduction, man. I appreciate it, Tom. Look, I first had the pleasure of meeting Tom Callahan nearly 20 years ago at a very interesting and unpredictable stage in my life. 98 Degrees and the golden era of pop was cooling off, and I was trying to get labels and radio to even listen to my solo project. And I was also going through a tremendously tumultuous time in my personal life. And it was at that time an industry friend introduced me to Tom and thought he could be of help given his successful run in the industry and his creative outside of the box thinking. And he couldn't have been more on point. Not only did Tom help me with amazing, wonderful professional advice, he became the only person available to me to confide in at that time in my personal life, providing tremendous words of wisdom and guidance when I so desperately needed it. And, at that time, I had no idea that 20 years later, I not only gained a fantastic advisor and a mentor and friend, but now somebody I consider a brother. Please welcome one of my dearest friends, Mr. Tom Callahan.
Thank you, guys.
Tom, you have to turn one of your devices off. We have a couple versions of you.
There
you go,
dude. I got a new computer here, as you know, and I get a new iPad. I apologize. Anyway, I didn't hear anything you guys just said. So can you start again?
Well, hey, always the comedian, Tom. I just basically introed you, man. It's a pleasure and honor. Thank you for choosing me to conduct this with you. And let's just start and kick it off from the beginning. Like, I know for a fact that you're a musician at heart. You started off in a band with your brother Kevin, and you're also an athlete. Tell us, the gestation of your career, where you came from, how you grew up in Boston, and how your family and everybody influenced you, and what drove you to the music industry in the first place.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Tom Truitt, thank you so much. I want to just say that I met Tom in Nashville a few weeks ago, and we just had a lovely conversation. And he inspired me, and we had a great chat. And he asked me to be on this, and I was a little nervous. And I've seen the past guests you've had, Tom, so I'm humbled to be on here with you. And Jeff, I look at you like a brother and a younger brother, very younger brother, and you've inspired me as well over the years. I've known you over 20 years, so I just wanted to get that out there. And I apologize for the beginning of this with my computer issues here, but I came out to Boston from Boston to California on my 21st birthday as a musician. Farted around for a while, ended up touring for 3 or 4 years, rock band. Then ended up getting in the record business at 25 years old as an intern, working part-time, tending bar, playing a couple of nights a week still, and sort of just made my way in the record business, slowly but surely, like everybody else. It wasn't in the mailroom, but it was pretty close.
But Tom, so usually, a lot of folks start off as musicians, right? And then they transition to other sorts of mediums in entertainment. Musicians that end up going and becoming radio personalities or TV personalities or record executives. When was that pivotal moment when you were out in LA, when you decided not to really give up on the music career, but maybe your calling was on the other side of things, on the executive side of things? What sort of occurred at that time that sort of sparked your curiosity, sort of led you down that path?
Well, really truthfully, I was going through a bit of a depression, to be honest with you. I had meetings when I was playing with the band, with the major labels that passed. Then I was also doing solo stuff and came very close a couple of times as well. And everything just sort of wasn't happening. I was like I was 25 maybe, and just thinking I'm never gonna make it. This is hard. I came so close, and then I knew someone that knew someone at a subsidiary of Enigma Records. Well, let me just go and talk to this guy. And it was very difficult to get into the business, as to get your foot in the door. And the guy that actually hired me first, his name was Ron Gowdy. If some of you guys out there might know Ron, he passed away a couple of years ago. He was working at Medusa, which was a smaller label of Enigma. And I said, dude, look, I'm going to work free. I mean, what do you have to lose? And he said, okay, come in Tuesdays and Thursdays and we'll start college radio promotion. And that's how I started. And then one thing led to another. And I always wanted to do A&R because I had the music background regarding the business, not so much radio promotion, but things happen quickly and you just kind of go with the flow. And I just worked my way sort of up the ladder doing radio promotion. But I always wanted to be in the studio working with artists,
Well, right, and radio promotion. If anybody that knows about the business, that's really get your knees and elbows dirty. That's the grunt work. That's the sort of less glorified version, yet essential part of the music business. Sort of the unsung heroes. The guys that have to smile and dial starting 5 o'clock in the morning on Tuesdays, looking for those ads. And, really responsible for breaking artists. Who were some of the first artists that you had the opportunity to work with while at Enigma?
Striper, I think, was the first real artist, first real band, I should say. And then Enigma went and they did a joint venture with Capitol, and it was the Smithereens for a bit. And then from there, I went over to IRS and worked for Miles Copeland, which I kind of feel was the first real entree into the business, and Miles was my first sort of mentor, if you will. And that's when I really started understanding the business more and started watching people and listening to people and understanding how the business worked,
Right. So then you worked at IRS, you got to work with some of those legendary bands. And then then you started Coyote Records and started doing stuff with Mazzetta and all those guys, or what
not yet
after that?
Yeah, I don't bore anybody with the progress, but from there I went to Virgin Records, and at Virgin Records is when I'm playing sort of with the big boys, and it was a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of fun too. And then in '92 I left to start Coyote Records with Dana Walden, who was the guy from the band Champagne. I don't know if he's on here right now watching, but he wrote the songs "How About Us," "Try Again" on CBS Records years ago. And we had Arnold McCullough, who's James Stewart's background singer, along with Bonnie Raitt, and Lyle Lovett, a bunch of people. And then I moved to Boulder, and the Coyote kind of fizzled away, and just started doing my independent promotion. And then Mazzetta joined me later in that, and then we started managing artists and kind of developed some things. And then Claire Parr, who also passed away about a year ago. Claire was my partner, and we did the multi-format thing with AAA and Hot AC and AC and Adult Top 40, all that stuff. So to me, the radio promotion, the independent scene, was really a means for me to make money so I could pursue running a label and being in the studio and managing artists and things I
think we lost him. And Tom, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Yes, we did lose him. Hopefully we'll get him back in just a moment. So while we're waiting for him to come back, let's shine a light on our other star, Jeff Timmons.
Let's see. Tom's almost back. I think there's a question. Let's answer. Do you mind, Tom, if I answer Michelle's question?
Please.
She said, do you think the not uncommon want to be a musician became a music exec fosters antipathy for musicians in the industry, or sympathy? Well, empathy. Maybe that's what you're talking about. I think it's a combination of both. Oh, antipathy. I see what you're saying there. Yeah, I think it's, in my experience, I've experienced both. So sometimes when you're dealing with industry executives and you're an artist, they have sort of this, passive aggressive feeling towards you as an artist because they didn't end up, becoming a successful artist. So you have to work through that sort of, those hurdles and obstacles. And then other times you do have people that are empathetic or sympathetic that know what it's like, the struggle it is to be an artist, and they end up vying for you and fighting for you and being on your team. That's a very, very good question, because I've experienced both as an artist. So, I just think it depends on the person, obviously, and their experience, but that's a wonderful question. Tom, you're back.
He's coming. So Jeff, while we're getting him back, let me pose a question to you, because you've been in both sides of the business. You've been an artist, you've been on stage, you've sold millions of records, and you've also been on the business side of it. Which of those two do you prefer?
Well, look, I mean, as I get older, I'm trying to transition behind the scenes, but they keep pulling me back in, right? I mean, last week we did the New York State Fair and we headlined that. So we're still able and fortunate and blessed enough to get out there and still perform. And I love it. But certainly, at some point you want to get behind the scenes and cultivate other artists, understand the business with all the emerging technology and obviously social forums like this. It's a fascinating thing for me to understand the business. And I was always intrigued by the business while, the first time around when we were out and hot in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I was a student of the business, and you have to be. I mean, you can't just, and I still know guys and gals to this day that go out and they just want to be an artist. And that's just not enough. I mean, you have to learn the industry and you have to learn your craft, and it's essential whether you want to or not, or you won't have any longevity. But I guess it's sort of 50-50. I love sitting, I'm in my studio. I work on music every night, whether it goes somewhere or goes nowhere. That's my passion. Like that's how Tom started his career. But ultimately, I love the music business as well, and cracking that nut and learning how to have success with it and making it more efficient. Tom, you look amazing. You're back.
Well, you know what happened? I had it on cellular, not Wi-Fi. I think that was
there you go. It's so much more clear now. So I think we left off when you were talking about your transition into wanting to run an independent label, and that kind of led me to my question, which gave me time to sort of formulate it while you were offline. Is you had mentioned you were with Virgin and the big boys and the pressure, the high risk, high reward, that pressure cooker that can be a blast and can put you on the edge. And a lot of folks get comfortable with the big corporations. I mean, they have their cushy jobs. It's steady. Although the pressure is there, they don't have to take the risk of running their own company. I think that speaks volumes for you, in that you wanted to follow your dream and your passion of cultivating, curating artists, A&Ring, and working on the music side of things, and then utilizing your resources and experiences to promote that. Did you find that an intimidating challenge when you took that leap?
Not really. Honestly, I've always been sort of unorthodox in my approach to many things. And to go back to Michelle Schacht, who I have a huge amount of respect for, to her question, if I heard part of it, just to briefly touch on that I think when I left playing, I had a ton of empathy for the musicians, and why I really have a passion for helping independent musicians, because I was there, not just independent musicians, any musician, but I understand that the difficulties in doing things. And because I wore a lot of hats, I felt like, let me try to be of service and try to help artists that I didn't really get the help I needed when I did need it when I was younger. I didn't have anybody taking me under their wing and saying, here's how to do it. Here's how to create your career. Here's how to orchestrate your career. Not so much navigate it, but orchestrate it, how to really create it. So that's what gave me the passion for what I do. But regarding taking chances and things like that, as my mom will tell you, that's never been anything for me. I've been fearless in that regard, pretty much all my life. So.
Now, and then it went on to Vellum. So you developed some artists and you created Vellum. And the first artist on that label was Susie K. And of course, you guys were nominated for numerous awards. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and how it was a little bit different than your previous experience with Coyote Records, and the stark difference with being with a major label like Virgin? And
it was. I think that's right around the time you and I met as well, and you were really supportive of this. Well, Susie K was an adult contemporary artist. She was married with a couple of kids, 40 years old, was singing sort of show tunes, but I wanted to make sort of a Loretta McKinnon album. And Kim Bullard got involved, Skip Bishop got involved, had some great players. And I was friends with Donny Osmond. I said, hey, Donny, you want to do a duet? And he goes, "Oh, I love this. Stephen Bishop wrote the song. It's called Now I Know." And then Dave Koz is also a friend. And I said, "Dave, do you want to play some sax on this?" And back then I was doing a lot of AC radio promotion, as many of you on this chat know. And I figured, okay, well, it's my label. It's an AC artist. I do AC radio promotion. Let's see what we can do. And we had, it was a turntable hit, top 20 at R&R. But as you know, AC is a fairly passive format. We achieved some good things. We didn't make a lot of money with that, but it was a lot of fun. And that's when you sort of came into the picture. And then we started signing a few artists with limited resources, like Jordan Hill and Richard Marignon. But Jordan Hill was a great story.
She was great. I kind of want to just talk about Susie's record real quick, Tom.
Sure.
I'd love to talk about the embodiment of the work with that record. The production was amazing. This is not just fluff because I'm interviewing you. Literally, if anybody has a chance to get that record, the production on that record, the songwriting was fantastic. So, I mean, to me, and I also was coming off of 98 Degrees at that time, and I was in my early 30s at that time, and people were telling me, look, your time is over. You need to go to adult contemporary. So what I kind of want to pivot a little bit. And that, do you think now, with all the streaming services and the things at your disposal now it doesn't matter, right? Now it doesn't matter how old you are. If you have an audience, you have all these tremendous tools at your disposal and the ability to promote. Do you think the result, because it was so limited and you had to go the lane of the adult contemporary, non-reactive, non-buying audience with Susie K, do you think with the resources and things at your disposal today that you could have achieved more success with Susie?
Interesting. That's a great question. Well, obviously, you never know. It's just all speculation. But back then as well, there wasn't really a sync world to speak of, an organized one anyway. So I think we would have probably done a lot more syncs and things of that nature. Social media didn't really exist for all intents and purposes. So we maybe could have reached more people and reached and found a bigger audience, a larger audience with social media and sync. Honestly, that ship has not totally sailed. I mean, we could do something with those. She did 2 records, actually. Well, 3 if you count the Coyote Records one that Dana Walden produced. That was the first one. The second 2 were, so she's done actually 3 records. But yeah, to answer the question, I think we probably could have reached more audience. But AC now is more hot AC. Hot AC is top 40. I mean, it's all evolved, so it'd be hard to say how it would be received, Right. I love it still. I do listen to it still.
And again, just kind of pivoting and staying more in the contemporary lane where we're talking right now, because I'm experiencing a lot of this metamorphosis of the industry right now with 98 Degrees, and our single is a hot AC. But in times of change, do you think that I've heard a million times, oh, radio is dead, it's over. Do you still feel radio is significant? Because I personally feel it still dictates the cool. I still feel traditional. Look, all the streaming services, all these tremendous platforms, the way to cultivate your fan base in a snap of your fingers is great. But I feel like it's very muddled, and that radio still dictates the cool to people, and so does traditional television. What are your thoughts on that? And you can disagree with me.
I don't think it dictates the cool. I think it still has the loudest speaker. I think it still is the biggest speaker that to reach the widest audience at any given time. Of course, the playlists are tiny, and it's incredibly cost prohibitive for most people. And you're not seeing a lot of indie artists on radio, which has always been the case. So you have to put that social media footprint out there, and aggregate all the streaming services, which admittedly is incredibly difficult, and it is muddled. And for artist discovery, streaming is incredibly difficult, and also that's getting incredibly costly. And I think people aren't understanding how streaming really works in terms of artist discovery. And it's a lot of people I hear say, oh, it's leveled the playing field. I don't think it's leveled the playing field necessarily. I think it's given opportunities more, but that doesn't mean it's leveled.
Well, I mean, look, let's face it. The big banks, which are the major labels, have now swooped in, and things like SoundCloud and, obviously the playlisting on Spotify, Pandora, Tidal and whatnot, Amazon Music, they have now been monopolized and now sort of curated by the big banks, the major labels as well. So those, while it started like the Wild West, and essentially is still a little bit in that lane, now the major labels have a strong hold on what gets the most momentum by their programming and their frankly their dollars. So how would you suggest an artist now break through?
Well, it reminds us to step back half a step. It reminds me of when we started the AAA format and how I discovered Boulder in 1993. There was a handful, not a handful, it was more than that, but a bunch of us that really wanted to help start this format, AAA. And it was for, roots rock and roll, singer-songwriters, independent artists, and it was all like gung-ho, And after about 2 years, when it started making noise, the big boys started coming, throwing money at the programmers, and the same shit as radio always has been. And it sort of hurt. It did hurt the format. And today, AAA is difficult to get played on as top 40 almost. And so to go back to your question, I think whenever the banks or the major labels, and I don't fault them for this necessarily. It's business, As soon as they see
billions of dollars,
yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah. Well, as soon as they see the masses going this way, they go, well, how can we influence that? How can we take our share? How can we be a bully in a lot of ways? And I love a lot of the guys in the music, the major label world, friends of mine. But the big labels can be bullies, and you have to sort of find your niche. Who are you, and how are you going to separate yourself from the masses? You have to think more creatively. To go back to what you're saying, you have to sort of really identify who you are, who your audience is, and there's no one answer to any of this. You have to find that little something that's going to separate you and pursue it.
Yeah, those intangibles are everything. You can create a roadmap. You can create comps. A/B yourself with similar projects. Look at numbers. But at the end of the day, there has to be that Malcolm Gladwell tipping point that sort of garners your fan base and all of that stuff. And I know we alluded to Jordan Hill, and that was really our project, our one project we really kind of pursued together. I'd like to talk about that with you because that was an interesting experience. For me, it was sort of my first experience trying to be sort of a quasi-manager, label executive. And here we had a talent that is second to none. You could put her vocal ability and for her vocal prowess up there with somebody like Christina Aguilera, now Ariana Grande, of course, Mariah. Jordan has chops with all of them, Whitney Houston. And I mean, here's an instance of, someone that has an undoubted talent that you go, this should be a no-brainer. But you and I, with all of our experience and connections and relationships, we couldn't make it work. Do you want to go down that lane and down that road and talk about it a little bit?
A little bit. Like let's use that little bit part because there's a lot of intangibles why someone gets signed or doesn't get signed. And as you recall, Jive Records flew us all out there first class to New York, and basically it was almost a shoo-in, and she performed amazingly in the studios. Flew back the next day, basically thought we had the deal. It was basically said we had the deal. Got a call and said we do A&R by committee, and this one particular person, all these people remain nameless, by the way, decided for various reasons that they didn't want to sign her. That happened a couple of different times, but I don't want to go down that road so much because I still have a very good relationship with Jordan, and she's amazing, and it's difficult, and you just don't.
The point is, right? The best talent always doesn't rise to the top. I mean, there are certain things
of course not.
that play into it. Unfortunately, in my experience, it's the marketability first, right? It's the way you look and how marketable you are first.
And she's gorgeous,
right? And then it's your work ethic, right? And your intangibles, your charisma, and then talent ends up falling way down the totem pole with regards to the criteria of what, sort of is the formula for folks making, right? And so,
well, I think it's changing.
Yeah,
it's changing.
Okay.
It's changing now. I mean, I think it's changing for the better. As we can see, people that are, boy, it's a tough discussion because you can handpick so many things where the rule, so to speak, or it doesn't apply. So that, I think that was it for the pop world more than the rock world or the singer-songwriter world or the alternative world. So I think you're talking more about the pop world, and even that is changing for the better. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is a work ethic. You're talking about self-discipline. You're talking about character. You're talking about, what are they going to do for their own career? As like you said in the beginning of this conversation about, you can't just be a great musician and say, I'm going to hand it off to the manager and they do everything. Now it's much more inclusive there. You have to partner with the artist, really. And the artist really has to put a ton of work in for their own benefit. It's really truly more of a partnership than it used to be, I think.
I know that we basically touched a little bit about, your athleticism. In the beginning, Tom introduced you and talked about your martial arts experience. I'd like to talk about the mind, body, spirit connection that you have and how that helps you navigate through the roller coaster of the entertainment business, and how important that has been, that part of your life has been in your professional, in contributing to your professional life as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you feel it's essential?
Yeah, there was times where I wasn't training, honestly, in the 80s and the early 90s. And so when I got back to it, it really changed everything. And I found myself really just driven to train. And I realized how much it was helping me to navigate, or just not even navigate, just to be more centered and grounded. I hate to use those overused terms, but because there's a lot of pressure in the business, And then I started realizing that money is not the motivating factor. I mean, I always sort of knew that, and I was always sort of a hippie at heart, and money was never a motivating factor for me. But I started really focusing on the internal art more, and try not to get too high or too low when things, because this business, you're so high, it's like, oh, this is amazing, or too low, everything sucks. So I try to find more of a happy medium and understand that all this is temporary anyway. And it's the music business, it's fickle. The entertainment business, I should say, because it's really entertainment business more than the music business. And it's just fickle, and things come and go, and you have not. And if you're going to be too high and you're going to be too low, it's not healthy. And I wanted to live a healthy lifestyle, mentally, as more than physically, And then you just realize that everything is temporary. So why get yourself your panties in a bunch, so to speak, you know what I mean? Just try to do your best work and try to be aware and try to be of service as best you can. That was always sort of how I thought. Anyway, I wasn't always successful doing that, but I tried my best. And when I grow mentally, it's always incrementally. It's slow. It's a slow growth. And you don't just wake up one day and go, I'm changed. It's about looking in the mirror and going, oh, I'm such an asshole. Why did I do that? And trying to correct some bad behaviors that we've all had, including myself, obviously. And really looking in the mirror and acknowledging the flaws we have, or recognizing that you want to be better, and then actually making an honest attempt to be better. And it's a lifetime goal, in my opinion.
Right. And it seems like it does take forever. It is incremental. And sometimes you take steps backward and all that stuff. But talking about moving forward and evolving with the times and implementing technology into some of the platforms that you started working with. There's one called Songtrader. How did you become involved with Songtrader? Tell us what that platform is and what that time period meant for you, and as far as like your growth as an entrepreneur and person on the other side of the art.
Well, that's an interesting one. Paul Wilshire is the CEO, and he's however you feel about Songtrader. I mean, there's going to be some haters and lovers. It doesn't matter. He's done an amazing job as a CEO.
What is it, Tom? For some of the folks who don't know what it is.
So Songtrader is a licensing platform, basically. But they're also buying tech companies for royalty collections, neighboring rights collections, is global a platform where music supervisors and artists have an opportunity to interact and to license music off this platform. I just sold my house in Manhattan Beach. I had a house out here in Boulder, which I'm in now, and I was basically sort of retiring. And it was 2014, and I was just going to teach karate full time. And 2013, I think, I went to Mark Freeser's Sync Summit in LA. I bumped into a guy from Australia. He says, "Oh, you got to meet my mate. He just moved here from Australia and he wants to start a record label." And I said, "I'm not interested," and all that. So he convinced me to go up and visit Paul at his house that he was renting at that time. And Paul says, "Yeah, I want to start this record label." I said, "I'm not interested unless we're going to do it totally different." And even then I'm pretty much mentally prepared to leave the music business. And then he goes, "Well, I have this other thing. I got a tech guy I'm talking to and working with called Song Trader. We just came up with a name, and this is what it's gonna be." It's totally different now. And I said, "That's interesting." And basically to pre-clear all the songs, put it on a platform, make it easy or make it easier for the artists to meet music supervisors, which they don't have access to, and for the music supervisors to come on the platform and license songs very easily, pre-cleared, yada, yada, yada. So I thought, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll help you." And he goes, "Will you help me run that?" I said, "Yeah." So we started in his living room, and I did 3.5 years there, and the CCO there. And then after 3.5 years, decided it was time for me to leave, and came out here and was teaching globally and traveling. And then the pandemic hit, I had to stop teaching. And then ended up reimagining an old company I had in 2009, which is Indie Advanced, company I currently have.
Let's talk about it, Indie Advanced, which, all the services that you offer, it's all pretty fascinating to me. So you were burned out a little bit, which we all get burned out with the business. And then again, they pull us back in, right? The love of music, the art of the deal and the hustle and the evolving state of the entertainment industry is always attractive enough to get us kind of wired back in with everything. When you were making the move again, when you had walked away from Song Trader after helping, get that off the ground and then sort of semi-checked out again, what was it about this old company that suddenly sparked, this excitement in you to go after it again, sort of reigniting that inner drive that you have, and tell us all about everything Indie Advanced.
Well, again, I don't want to bore you guys too much, but with that stuff. But one of my karate students, Natalia, who's now my director of operations, she's a musician, a very talented one actually, and she didn't know I was in the music business. A lot of the people out here in Boulder just did, because I been teaching, a lot and all that. And she called me one night or texted me or said, "Who are you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I just Googled you and all this music stuff came up," and she's a musician. And so I started telling her my background in music and yada, yada, yada. And then somehow, I built this company, Indie Advanced, in 2009. I never did anything with it except built the services and built the website. This is before label services really existed. We weren't even calling it label services back then. And but I never did anything with it. And Natalia said to me, "You should do something with this company. It's really going to be helpful." And I told her I wanted to really focus on the educational aspect, because I think in order to create a middle class or to help the independent musician, that it starts with education. And I know there's other companies like Mark Freeser, for example, who is working with us closely now. And there's a lot of other companies that are doing a lot of education for artists. I think this is so important, and I wanted to be part of that, and then offer services to help them at a very affordable rates. And so that's sort of the genesis of the company. And I'm still going through, a metamorphosis of this company as well. It's still growing. And then in order to have an ecosystem where the artist really doesn't have to leave, or doesn't want to leave, I should say, I wanted to do distribution as well. And so I had people telling me, "Oh, Tom, don't worry, you can't do distribution. It's too hard, it's too expensive." And I found a company in Europe that works with, Avid and Dolby and all these companies. And so I basically just white labeled this company, and they have great tech. And I said, I want to create an ecosystem where the artist has everything they need: education, distribution, services, a great staff of executives that have done it before, young and older, not old, older. So, and to really help, And we're doing it, we're a global company, and I'm just now putting international managers in place so we can have an import-export kind of a situation. If my domestic artists that are with Indie Advance want to go to New Zealand, Australia, China, Sweden, Scandinavia, Europe, that we'll have people in place to take care of them over there, and vice versa. Those artists can access the domestic market here in the U.S. So sort of is evolving, as I said, but that was the genesis of it. We're doing quite well. Thanks to people like Tom Truitt and other people that have been Dick Wingate, and just a lot of people I have a total lot of respect for, that have supported Indie Advance and have really come to my aid and given me great suggestions and advice and support. David Hazen. This is a whole bunch of people. So I'm really grateful to you guys if you're out there. I don't know if it was out there, but everyone's been very supportive, and it keeps me getting up in the morning, go, yeah, we can do this. Because some days you get up and go, what am I doing? I'm 60 years old. Now, what am I doing here? I just don't want to do this. And then, that passes, and then I get excited and I see the artist's eyes light up, and I see the help we've been giving them, and it makes me feel good.
Yeah, and look, I mean, as you know, that sort of seems to be the new thing that's in vogue with major labels as well. As the major labels are paring down their artist development staff, and they started doing that when we were out 20 years ago. They started doing away with artist development. Now, major labels are starting to subcontract companies like yourselves, sort of the label services, to do jobs, boutique agencies like yourself, to do these jobs for artists that are coming out to supplement just them throwing money at radio. So I think, kudos to you for having the insight in advance, no pun intended, to create Indie Advance. But also, as I took a look at the business model, and you were kind enough to share that with me not too long ago, I found it fascinating that you were incorporating all of these other things sort of into a one-stop shop, that even these other sort of quasi-competitors to what you're doing, they don't offer everything in one place. And particularly the development and sort of the teaching and tutelage that you're offering, understanding the business and how you need to take the reins as an artist yourself, as a marketer, promoter, all of these things that Indie Advance offers that a number of these other companies don't offer. Do you think it's fascinating? And do you think that's sort of where the next phase of this is going, where these major labels are going to be, and I keep referring them to the bank, and I'm not trying to disparage the majors either at all, but they've become less specialized and more sort of general with regards to what they do. They throw the money at the streaming services and at radio, and utilize old school relationships with programming across the traditional platforms, and then let everybody else kind of get dirty by paying them retainers and whatnot for different specific projects. Is that where this is going, or where do you see this kind of, heading next?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do see other companies getting into the educational area as well, which I'm happy. I don't really look at anybody as competitors and collaborators more to me. In fact, I just talked to a competitor the other day, and he was happy to hear from me, and it's like, we sort of need to create a new paradigm here. Again, an overused word in a lot of ways, but in the new paradigm, I think the foundational aspect is education. And I see other companies starting to do that and understanding that, because an educated musician understands and makes better informed decisions about their career, and if they'll know how to use our services better, and they won't be just throwing money at our company not knowing what they're doing. They'll be like, okay, I need this, I need that, I don't need this and that, I only need this right now, and then maybe move here. The other thing we do a lot of, which I'm the most comfortable doing personally in the business, is the project management, because it's like a manager, and I really like that role. I like to oversee projects, and so the project management for me is actually fun for me, and I enjoy it, and I'm very selective who I'm working with in that regard. We just signed an artist named Levi Alter, this kid's amazing, and we've had a bunch of other artists under us as well, but this new kid I'm very excited about. And he's under the project management sort of part. The education, I think I am seeing companies going into the education, and I think that the distribution is going to become fragmented. This is my own personal opinion. I think that when artists discover that they can do distribution themselves, with some of these companies now that are coming out with a platform that the artists can have themselves, They don't need an aggregator necessarily. That the companies that are, have a ton of artists under their umbrella and distribution, I think that may go away eventually, and artists will just be doing their own distribution and running their own little companies. So our business, we have a Michael Gentlisk, who is our one of my partners actually, a business affairs guy. He's a brilliant guy, Stanford, Oxford, Georgetown Law, and he is doing all of our legal stuff. So you want to create your own LLC, your own publishing entity. So we're going to educate you on how to run your own business. And that excites me more than almost anything. I want the artists to run their own businesses successfully. And if we can guide them and educate them, then fantastic.
We have a question. So it says, most of the current educational efforts for musicians has an unspoken ideological agenda behind it. How can we be entrepreneurs when the digital economy is unsustainable and our exploits are devalued labor? Asking for a friend.
Jesus, you're gonna have to say that one again. I'm not that smart.
Most of the current education.
Yep,
most of the current educational efforts for musicians has an unspoken ideological agenda behind it. How can we be entrepreneurs when the digital economy is unsustainable and exploits our devalued labor?
Is this person saying, not he, is this person saying that the ideological aspect of education, there's some hidden agenda?
I don't know. Michelle, can you elaborate on your question?
That's Michelle.
In the meantime, I want to talk to you. You've mentioned distribution quite a bit. Okay, so my question is this: so you're offering international distribution under the in the Advance umbrella as an a la carte option, in addition to all the other services. How does your services with regards to distribution compared to other companies like DistroKid or CD Baby?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. One of the main reasons I started the distribution platform and is because people would say to me that I should be starting it because, except a couple of people that said it's too expensive, but the people that wanted me to start it were saying and complaining about the customer service aspect of things. Can't reach anybody, can't do this, can't do that. They're too big. There's hidden costs. If we want to do Shazam, we want to do that. There's another cost. So there was all these sort of things, and I'm not going to disparage anybody, any of these other distributors, but I figured, okay, if I can super serve these guys in terms of customer service and help navigate the distribution part, and make it easy where we're giving them smart links for downloads and just really making it easy for them, and to be able to contact us when there's a problem, which is something we're getting a lot of kudos for. That was that's how we, I think, differentiate ourselves. In terms of cost, the way I'm going to be going forward is my distribution is going to be free because I'm going to be bundling it with education, some other things, and that's what's going to happen eventually, in my opinion. Distribution is going to be free for the aggregators like myself, and the artists will probably have their own anyway. So I think it's going to come down to artist discovery. How do we really reach the fan? How do we reach that fan? How do we keep a fan? How do we make the fan associated with the artist? I mean, and that to me is the biggest challenge in everything. And we're working on some things with that as well.
Back to Michelle's question, she elaborated a little bit on it. So she's talking about entrepreneurship in a market that's tilted in favor of monopolies. Basically trying to compete in some of the stuff that we touched upon earlier, how to sift through, how can you be sustainable when we're talking about, the big behemoths like Universal that are sort of capitalizing on SoundCloud and Spotify and streaming services, as well as the traditional media forms. So how would you suggest sort of breaking through?
Well, there's so much tech and there's so much available to use now that first of all, you need to understand how all of this works. And then figuring out sort of your lane. I mean, I'm just going to use some of these terms, but whether it's an NFT, do you have something to reach these people, or the tipping on SoundCloud, for example? How the fan tipping? I mean, Collection of your royalties worldwide. How do you collect all those royalties worldwide? There's tech things for that. There's companies that do that. Figure out the companies that specialize in various aspects of your business in those verticals, and collect as much money as you can that way. But it still comes down to, how do you reach that fan and keep them? And that's the biggest challenge. And that's what you have to figure out.
And
that's
correct me if I'm wrong.
That's what we help you
look,
figure.
right. And everybody gets into the entertainment business for different reasons. But, for those of us that do it for the love of music and want to make a living doing it, I think nowadays, it's a different story. If you're trying to be a major megastar, international superstar sensation, then it is tough competition and tough sledding against the majors and big powers that are out there. But if you're trying to make a living, you've got so many tools at your disposal that really, I think it comes to down to that saying that, to allude to go back to what you're talking about, kind of gaining that fan and getting them to embrace you. It's that 1,000 fans. You only need 1,000 fans to maintain a career, 1,000 loyal fans to have this, sort of be your career and make a living doing it. So I think it's just a matter of creativity. Back to Indie Advance. I know you described it as an a la carte of label services, education, distribution, and obviously A&R and all the other things that you're specialized in with regards to curating the product and all that stuff, project management and whatnot. What do you think is essential now for the next? We all know it's difficult to create a startup and get a business off the ground. You need a tremendous amount of funding. While we have these people listening, what are the next steps, and how can we? Where do you see your company going, and how can we help to see it flourish? Sort of to meet the vision that you have for the company.
I really want to, not only domestically, of course domestically, but I really want to focus in the emerging markets as much as I can, because they really need help. They don't, not that I don't want to take the old business model and say, here's how they did it in the United States, for example, because that's wrong. Obviously, that's why Indie Advance is here. I want to help educate them with my international managers who know their territories, and get them educated and really just replicate Indie Advance in these different emerging markets. And I think go back to your tipping point, Gladwell's book, that at some point the global music scene for the independent artists, there's 100 million independent artists or something like that. It's crazy. As soon as they start getting educated and controlling their own destiny, and everyone's destiny is going to look different, but controlling their own destiny without being beholden to anyone, and being in control, that over time I think we'll see a totally different look to the entertainment business, music business.
We see more and more labels are now partnering with the artists, right? Which we thought would never happen, 20 some years ago, and sort of they're adapting to it, and seeing these artists more empowered. Do you think there's ever going to be a time where you're devoid of major labels?
Maybe the major labels will morph into something else. They have some great executives that working at these major labels. I mean, smart people that have done it, but they don't want to rock the boat. It's very similar to politics. I know we can't talk about politics, but in terms of the general politics, that no one wants to rock the boat. And if you do rock the boat, you're kind of kicked off to the side. So, but if there's enough people rocking the boat, then it overwhelms the traditional model. That's why
they either kick you off to the side or they buy you out, right? I mean, those are the things too. If they can't beat you, then they have you join them and they make you an offer that you can't refuse, which isn't necessarily a bad thing either, right?
Well, it's not a bad thing. Depends how much you want the money versus how much you want to help the industry. If you're making a good living, how much do you need? I mean, I don't know. If someone comes and offers me a shitload of money for this company, I don't know what I'm going to do. As long as I want to maintain the integrity of the company. It's the reason why it was started. So, yeah, I mean, who knows where it's going to go? I mean, I hope I can maintain the integrity of the company. I mean, I anticipate that's going to happen because the people I'm going to be bringing onto this company, we're going to share this mentality and share the philosophy that we have. And so I have high hopes for the company. I mean, it's hard to see the future,
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? What's new on the horizon for you? What are next steps with what you're doing? Obviously, utilizing the different cultures and different territories is a really specialized, intelligent way to do things and grow the business, and really interesting to me as well. Given that I'm working with a bunch of independent artists as well. So I find that fascinating, that the uniqueness to the territory, the emerging markets. I think that's a brilliant idea. But what else is next on the horizon?
For me personally, I'm writing a book called Corporate Fitness. That's my friend Stefano, who's on our board as well. He's the chief branding officer at Coty, ex-president of Johnson & Johnson. And he told me a few years ago, we were sitting having some wine. He says, "You need to write a book." I said, "What? I'm a college dropout. What am I going to write a book on?" And he said, and he was talking about the Eastern philosophy, the Buddha philosophy that I embrace, and how I apply that to my personal life and business life, et cetera, which deals with character, ethics, and morals, yada, yada, yada. And so I started writing that book about 3 years ago. And it's really about being a healthier, happier person. And if you're a happier, healthier person, I think you do better work. You're more grounded, you're more centered. We kind of talked about this at the very beginning. And to me, this book's really important. I'm having a hard time finishing it. In part because, this new company's taken up a ton of my time, but also I think I'm having a tough time finishing it just because I don't sort of want it to go away in a way. I mean, I can't describe it. I mean, I write a little bit and I'm passionate about it, and I look at it and go, and I put it down, that kind of a thing. And I feel kind of funny expressing it, in words. But I do want to share that about myself. And if it inspires people, it inspires people. I just think that we're so crazed with everything, with all the EMFs and the computers, and the business and everything that's going on, the politics and the news and the horrible things, that we tend to not take time for ourselves, And I think it's really critical and important to take time for ourselves, and understand, like I said at the beginning, this is temporary. Do the best work you can, put 100% into it, follow your passions and do what you want to do, but don't take everything so freaking seriously,
No doubt. One thing we're learning as we get older, right? Have fun with it. Enjoy the process.
Enjoy the process.
Life is short. All those cliche things. But as you get older, it's about having fun, right? And surrounding yourself with people you love working with. I know this book is your baby, and you don't want to see it go away. But when can we anticipate it coming out, and where can we find it?
I thought it'd be out in September, and that's tomorrow. So
it's not going to be tomorrow. The rest is
it's not going to be tomorrow. I would say it's probably 70% done. I mean, I'd like to get it out by June, who knows? Going back, I just was thinking about one of the things in this book, but it applies to what we're talking about some of the artists we discussed, is about self-discipline. That's part of the book as well. And self-discipline through, I learned through my running days and through the martial arts days and my martial arts still, it really has to do with self-discipline, whether you're a writer, musician, doing your social media, whatever you have in front of you that you look at, that you procrastinate on. This is where self-discipline comes in. And it's easy to walk away from it and say, I'll do it tomorrow, do it tonight, the next day, or I don't really need to do that. And this is where the honesty, the self-honesty comes in. Do I really need to do it? Yeah, you do. That kind of thing. And so self-discipline is really important, looking in that mirror, acknowledging the shortcomings and attempting to fix those shortcomings, and really pursuing. If you really want it, you're going to pursue it. Maybe you don't really want it.
Well, look, I'm with you on the self-discipline. I mean, I think mine stems back from playing football my whole life, and I've carried that into my career, and I feel like it's an integral part of success, and couldn't agree with you more. Look, Tom, it's been an honor for me to be interviewing you today. I want to wish you a happy birthday. I appreciate the insight and all the great questions. Like I said, thanks for having me be a part of this, and it's a joy to see your success throughout the years. Again, call you a brother and friend. And Tom, thanks a lot. The other Tom Truitt, thanks so much for considering me for this and having me on today. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all that joined today. Tom, one last thing, where can everybody catch up with you at? Obviously the website, if you want to mention that. Any other place.
My email is tom@indieadvance.com or indieadvance.com, or most of you guys know how to find me, and I appreciate Tom Truitt. You are doing amazing service for people. I really enjoy watching these, and I'm honored to be on it. And Jeff Timmons, who's touring again. I think you're playing Mandalay Bay on the 16th.
That's it.
And congratulations with never giving up on your dream and putting this back together as you did. Many of you may or may not know that Jeff was the founder of 98 Degrees and sold 14 million records. And anyway, I'm just so honored that Jeff has been an advisor for me. Again, he's younger, but he's been an advisor for me, a friend to me, and we all need people to rely on. We need mentors, we need friends, and don't think you have to go it alone. There's always people out there to help you. And even though we all may not agree on everything, that the discussion is the most important thing.
Got it.
So thank you guys. I appreciate
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, let me jump in and do my normal wrap up. First off, Tom, thank you very much for being our guest and sharing your wisdom and inspiration. So excited about your new venture. Regret that we didn't get much of the karate today. I wanted to hear about that. That's really cool and interesting. And Jeff, to you, thank you so much for the music over the years and what you're continuing to do to create excellent content. Love to have you back on as a guest in the future so we can learn more about your career as well.
Would love it.
To the audience, thank you for continuing to support our programs. We will be back here in a week. Meanwhile, everybody, stay safe, get a shot as soon as you can, and be nice to each other. Later, folks.
Thanks. Happy birthday, Tom. Love you, man.
Thank you. Love you too.